Good morning, Commissioners, Chief McDonald, Madam Secretary, Acting Inspector General Florence Yu, Mr. City Attorney Carlos De La Guerra, and members of the public. Today is Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. It is 9:30 a.m. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Please let the record reflect Commissioners Suthers, Shields, Calanche, Garcia, and Sanchez Gordon are present, and we have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. We welcome everyone attending this morning. The Police Commission is committed to ensuring equal access to its meetings. It is requested that individuals who require the services of a translator contact the board secretary no later than the day preceding the meeting. Whenever possible, a translator will be provided. Sign language interpreters, assistive listening devices, or other auxiliary aids and/or services may be provided upon request. To ensure availability, you are advised to make your request at least 72 hours prior to the meeting you wish to attend. All public comment will be heard during item number 2 on the agenda. We will dedicate a total of 45 minutes to public comment. Members of the public will have 1 minute per agenda item for a maximum of 2 minutes total. At the request of the speaker will be given 1 additional minute for general public comment for a maximum of 3 minutes total. The order of the speakers will be a speaker in this room will go first. Then we will take a speaker watching today's meeting on Zoom. We will alternate between speakers in the room and Zoom for a total of 45 minutes. Members of the public who will participate in public comment are reminded that they can speak to any item on the agenda or a matter within the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners. Public comment is your opportunity to address the board, so you are free to express your opinion on matters before the board and to generally express when you disagree with other opinions expressed. However, directing your comments to other individuals who have spoken or attacking others who have expressed their opinions shall be deemed off-topic, and your public comment period will be concluded. Members of the public, if you choose to participate in the public comment portion of the agenda, you can participate in this meeting in a number of ways outlined on the agenda. Message for those attending the meeting in person. These meetings are regular meetings between the board, the department, and key stakeholders. Meetings of the Board of Police Commissioners are open to the public. The state's Ralph M. Brown Act affords the public the opportunity to be present at the meetings, hear the presentations and dialogue in real time, and provide feedback via the public comment period. During these meetings, there's a need for the board to carry out the public business expeditiously without delays or disruptions. Members of the audience shall not engage in any conduct which causes an actual disruption of the meeting. Those attending in person are reminded that disruptive behavior will be cause for removal. If you disrupt this meeting, you will be provided with only 1 warning to cease disruptive behavior. If you fail to cease such behavior, you will be removed from the meeting. All attendees must be seated. Failure to follow this rule will result in a warning and/or removal from the meeting. At this time, we will move to item number 1, the report of the Chief of Police, Chief McDonald.
Morning, President Suthers, Vice President Shields, Commissioners, Acting Inspector General Yu, and City Attorney De La Guerra. Today I'll be discussing a couple of significant events from the previous week, providing a crime update and discussing our personnel strength. This is regarding a Foothill officer-involved shooting on February 7th, about 9:40 a.m. Foothill Division uniformed officers responded to a radio call of a possible kidnap suspect at a motel located at 10381 San Fernando Road. The comments of the call indicated that the person reporting, later identified as Linda Becerra Moran, was being forced to stay at the location against her will. Once the officers and a supervisor arrived, they entered the motel room and met with Moran. During the investigation, Moran became agitated, armed herself with a knife, and held it to her own neck. The officers and supervisors exited the motel room and deployed to the threshold of the doorway. The officers repeatedly verbalized for Moran to drop the knife. Moran did not comply and advanced toward officers while still holding the knife, at which time an officer-involved shooting occurred. Moran was struck by gunfire, dropped the knife, and fell on the bed. Moran was taken into custody without further incident. The officers rendered aid to Moran, and she was transported by rescue ambulance to a local hospital where she was treated and admitted for her injuries. A knife was recovered from the scene and booked as evidence. No officers or other community members were injured as a result of this incident. Our Force Investigation Division investigators responded to the scene and are investigating this incident to this point. Year to date, we've had 3 officer-involved shootings as in comparison to last year, where we also had 3 at this time. There was a protest robbery and stabbing incident, and let me run that through you. Over the past week, we've continued to see daily protests regarding immigration, both downtown and in the valley areas. Our department remains committed to facilitating peaceful demonstrations while ensuring public safety. However, we've also seen incidents of violence arise, in which I want to address. On Friday, February 7th, during an anti-immigration protest outside City Hall, an assault with a deadly weapon and robbery occurred at approximately 10:30 a.m. The demonstration was largely attended by students when a participant was approached by a group of individuals and also engaged in the protest. The group surrounded the victim and began striking him. As he attempted to flee, he fell to the ground and then was kicked by the suspects. Officers from Security Services Division immediately responded, causing the crowd to disperse. The victim was treated at the scene for his injuries. During the attack, his cell phone and bullhorn were stolen. A sergeant on scene reviewed video footage of the incident and distributed images of the suspects to officers in the field as well as to the Los Angeles School Police. Through this collaboration, 2 individuals, both students from Santee Education Complex, were identified. Major Crimes Division detectives took over the investigation, ultimately locating both individuals. They were issued citations for battery and receiving stolen property. Detectives are continuing efforts to identify other individuals involved, and this investigation remains ongoing. Later that same day, about 1:30 p.m., a large group of predominantly student protesters gathered in the area of Grand Park and City Hall. During the demonstration, an argument broke out between several students, escalating into a physical altercation. In the course of the fight, one student stabbed another in the back with an unknown sharp object before fleeing the area on foot. The victim sustained a 1-inch stab wound and was transported to a local hospital where he underwent surgery for a punctured liver. Initially listed in critical condition, he is now stable. Major Crimes Division also assumed investigative responsibility for this incident and is working diligently to identify and locate the suspect. On February 9th, approximately 2:30 in the morning, Topanga uniformed officers responded to a radio call of a shooting at a residence in the 5900 block of Winnetka Avenue. Upon arrival, they encountered 7 individuals suffering from gunshot wounds. One person was pronounced deceased at the scene, while the others were transported to local hospitals for treatment. The preliminary investigation indicates that the incident occurred at a house party that was widely advertised on social media. Security personnel were present at multiple checkpoints throughout the property. At some point, an altercation broke out inside the residence, escalating to gunfire. Video surveillance and witness statements confirm multiple shooters were involved. Detectives from Operation Valley Bureau Homicide are leading the investigation and working to identify all individuals responsible. While the full circumstances are still under review, there is no indication that this was gang-related. Investigators are in contact with the involved individuals' families and continue to gather evidence, including surveillance footage. At this time, no arrests have been made, and the search for additional suspects remains ongoing. Over the past 4 weeks, from January 12th to February 8th, the city has seen an 8.2% decrease in combined persons and property crimes compared to the previous 4-week period. Persons crimes dropped by 2.5%, while property crimes declined by 9.7%. Homicides are down 28.1% year-to-date compared to 2024. However, the number of victims shot has risen significantly, up 44.8% compared to the prior period, with notable increases in 77th Street, Rampart, and Newton. Although this increase is concerning, no clear pattern or trend has been identified that would explain these rises. Aggravated assaults saw a slight decline of 2.9% in the past 4 weeks. Meanwhile, robberies saw a modest increase of just under 1%. Burglaries dropped almost 23% citywide, with residential burglaries down 15% and non-residential burglaries declined by almost 31%. Motor vehicle thefts rose 3.8% over the past 4 weeks, with notable increases in Southwest, 77th, Northeast, Van Nuys, and Pacific. The most common stolen vehicles continue to be Chevrolets, Hyundais, Toyotas, and Kias. While we continue to see positive reductions in overall crime trends, the rise in violent incidents, particularly firearms-related offenses, remains a priority. We remain committed to proactive policing strategies, crime prevention efforts, and community engagement to ensure the safety of all Angelenos. As far as our personnel strength as of February 10th, We have 8,785 sworn personnel and 2,673 civilian personnel, and our reserve officer staffing remains stable at 380 people. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Chief, thank you for your report. I'd like to refer back to last week. We had a conversation about pursuits. 2 years ago, one of the first presentations we had as new commissioners was a response to our request for pursuit analysis, and a response was presented by a traffic group that looked at a 5-year period from 2018 to 2023. What I'd like to do is look at, from that date, it was actually March 31st, 23, to this past weekend where we had another pursuit that resulted in a traffic collision and injuries. So if we could have that study look at March 31st, 23 through year-to-date February, at least February 9th, 25. It's a very comprehensive report that looked at a number of areas that we want to examine: total number of pursuits, number that resulted in traffic collision, number of injuries and fatalities as a result of the pursuit and the collision, reason for the initiation of the pursuit, numbers of pursuits that were canceled by the involved officers, supervisors, or watch commander, and the number of pursuits that were adjudicated as out of policy administrative disapproval. There's a sense of urgency here. I know we have had a number of these in the last several months. What I expect is for the appropriate unit to do this analysis, and I'm going to place this on the agenda for a month from now, the March 30th Police Commission, so we can have a look at this. And we want to understand why this is happening. Is there something we can do about it in a risk management way? Is this a training issue, or is there some other matter that's coming before these officers or these incidents that we can mitigate so we can reduce the risk of injuries to the public and or our officers?
Mr. President, we'll get that.
Okay.
Be ready for the agenda.
With that, I have no other comment. Commissioner Garcia?
Thank you, Chief, for the report. So question, the stabbing and the fight that occurred during some of the demonstrations, is there any connection between the two?
Other than there were students involved, that there was no tie-in between the two individual crimes. One was a person who was out there and making his feelings known, which were counter to what the demonstrators were talking about, is my understanding on that one. And then the other one, it doesn't appear that there's any connection.
And in terms of being proactive in the future, should or as demonstrations continue, what has been the conversations or the approach to ensure that the department's better able to keep those spaces safe, and that communication is going out to the organizers to help them do everything they can to keep the space safe?
No, thank you for that. Yeah, whenever there's a march or a demonstration, one of the first things we try and do is find out who the organizers are, try and meet with them to be able to understand what their needs are relative to their expressing their First Amendment rights, and then to be able to let them know what the rules are as far as staying within the law. Generally speaking, we have a pretty good ability to be able to develop that relationship and to be able to work with the organizers. When others become involved in these incidents that don't have that same interest, then we see the problems that we've seen. The key is to be able to separate those that are committing acts of violence or vandalism from the rest of the crowd, to be able to identify them, and then to be able to hold them accountable through arrest. As we move forward, we have plans in place. Our people know what the expectations of them are. And when I look at what we experienced coming out of the fires, it was kind of a lot of things happening at the same time throughout the city. We had the Grammys on one particular night. At the same time, we had protests, and we had just come off 30 days of citywide TAC alert. And so, a challenging time for all involved there. We've come out of that now, regrouped, and I believe we're in a position to be able to do it the way it should be done, while granting people the ability to express their First Amendment rights, but letting them clearly know what the parameters are. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Commissioner Kalanche?
Thank you. Just really quick, as a quick follow-up to that kind of line of thinking, do we know when, so it's like, are we talking to LA Unified, or does LA Unified notify us if they know students are like leaving campus? Do we know that?
Yeah, we have an ongoing strong relationship with LA Unified School District Police. We're talking all the time. When they become aware of some information that there's going to be walkouts or whatever the information they have is, they express that to us. Likewise, we exchange information with them when we become aware of it. So the relationship is strong, ongoing, and the communication is very good.
And are they coming out to support? I mean, it shouldn't just fall on our officers. Are they coming out to support when these students are leaving campus and coming to protest?
Their focus is the campus and the area surrounding the campus. Once they get into the area of City Hall or Grand Park, then that becomes our responsibility. But the relationship still exists, and we do work closely together. They
Okay.
provide backup to us and we to them whenever the need arises.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sanchez Gordon?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Chief, I'd like to know how, if you know of any other scheduled protest that the city is preparing for.
Yeah, we become aware of, there are permitted protests and then there are others that are not permitted. We look at social media, we look to people that we have contact with in the community, and we try and put together on a daily basis what is occurring for the day and for the days ahead so that we can plan for our deployment. And so there are ongoing, some days we'll get notification in the morning that there may be 6 protests planned throughout the city. So we then notify the appropriate divisions and entities that would be involved in ensuring that everybody gets to express themselves, but does so in a safely way. So that is an ongoing, dynamic process.
I have another question. You did mention that you work with the organizations around the city that have interest in these demonstrations, marches, protests. In your meetings with them, do you also discuss how those nonprofit, for the most part, organizations and the Los Angeles Police Department officers out in the field can work together to minimize disruption, to minimize mainly injuries, whether to the protesters or the officers?
Yeah, thank you for that question. We absolutely do. Wherever we can identify somebody who is organizing the protest or in charge at the scene of the protest or march or demonstration, we try and open a line of communication with them to be able to respect what it is they're trying to say and the feelings they're trying to get across pursuant with their First Amendment rights, and then let them do that in a way that is controlled but safe for not only for those involved in the march, but those who are conducting their own business, going about their business in the area that's surrounding that event, as well as officers who are responding. Our best tool is basically communication and being able to understand each other, what each other's limitations are, what each other's goals are for the event. And for the most part, we get cooperation and are able to do these on a regular basis without any undue issues arising.
Last question. The demonstration on the 7th of February, which were held in downtown and in the valley, they were primarily students, correct?
Yes.
And there was some level of violence, and the victim was treated. Was the student a minor from a high school, or were they college students?
No, my understanding is they were students from Santee Education Complex, which is part of LAUSD, so they would be high school students.
And two suspects have been identified?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Shields?
Thank you. Thank you, Chief, for the report. I want to talk a little bit about the house party that resulted in the death of a minor and I believe 6 additional individuals that were shot. Given that these are kind of like flyer parties and house parties that I believe charge admissions and things like that, are there proactive steps that the department can take in identifying the organizers and or taking other measures to stop them from, renting, party houses in the future?
Yeah, no, thank you. Great question. Some of these houses are Airbnb or similar type of arrangements. Obviously, the owners don't know what's going to happen when the person rents the house. As soon as we become aware of it, we have an ongoing relationship and a level of communication with the security folks who work for these organizations, Airbnb and others. And so we're constantly talking as to what we're seeing and what we can do to be helpful to them and them to us in exchange of information. When we become aware of a party like this, and they happen fairly spontaneously, based on social media. So you can, what used to take a long time to put together flyer parties, people would leaflet for days or sometimes weeks beforehand. Now this is all done over social media, and you can put together 300 people in a matter of less than an hour. So it makes it challenging for us from a deployment standpoint to be able to identify where these issues are occurring, how many people are likely to show up, and what resources might reasonably be needed to be able to keep that situation under control. Where we become aware of a party like this, a patrol unit will be dispatched and talk to the people who are in charge of the location and try and make sure things are done appropriately. Most of the time, that's a very effective method, and we get compliance. There are times like this where that's not the case.
And I know, resources are always stretched, but is there a specific, part of the department that can proactively search social media for these types of parties in the future?
We do. We have investigators throughout the organization who do scour the internet for special events that are occurring, for parties that are occurring, for people coming together in a big way so that we can appropriately deal with whatever the fallout from that circumstance might be. It's done at the division level, the bureau level, as well as from downtown here. And we share the information throughout the organization and with adjoining organizations that might be involved as well.
Okay, great, thank you.
Sure.
One protest that I want to inquire about is a protest that started and was at in front of someone's residence this past week. Can you talk a little bit about what the department is able to do in those circumstances in terms of making sure that people are complying with the law while still exercising their First Amendment rights, but not, harassing specific individuals in specific neighborhoods?
Yeah, that's certainly something that is our focus. As soon as we become aware of people coming together for the purpose of expressing their First Amendment rights, our goal is to meet with them and as best we can to be able to ensure that they know we're there for their safety and the safety of everybody, and to be able to let them know what the ground rules are, what they can't do as they exercise those rights, but then to hold them accountable when they cross over that line, verbally initially, and then follow up with whatever actions are appropriate based on the behavior.
And I think that one of the protests that was at an individual's house, I thought there was like vandalism happening and things like that. Was any action taken by the department or to identify those individuals and hold them accountable for crossing the line?
Yeah, certainly if there's vandalism or damage to the house, the homeowner will make a report. Detectives will follow up on that. I don't know specifically on this case where that investigation is.
Thank you. And during last week's meeting, the issue of what an officer that had been arrested came up, and in further news reports, it showed that this person had a warrant out for their arrest because they had a probation violation.
Right.
I will say that that's just unimaginable to me and unacceptable to me that someone would be on the force that also has an active warrant. So what is the department doing to ensure that no one else is in the department that has violated any types of terms of release, and making sure that that's not something that is repeated in the future?
All right, thank you. The officer, at its base, the officer has an obligation to report those things. That did not occur, obviously, in this case. But back when this person went into that status with the warrant, they were able to do that because the REMAC, or the Risk Management Executive Committee that oversees these type of things, to ensure that when somebody has a situation where they're arrested off-duty, that we monitor the compliance with the conditions that are laid out for them by the court. In this case, there was a gap in there, is my understanding, and that did not occur. But the system is in place to catch that.
And can we make sure that, proactively now, that anyone who is being monitored in the REMAX system or others, that there is just a standard ongoing search of their criminal histories to make sure that they have not failed to report any additional instances or any violations of their terms of release?
Yeah, REMAC monitors the individuals pretty closely so that if there were anything to occur, it should be caught in that process.
And I'm asking kind of affirmatively that they make sure that they run those checks
Right.
on a consistent basis.
Yeah, I believe that's the case. I'll follow up.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item number 2 in the agenda, public comment period. Madam Secretary, please announce the first speaker.
The first speaker is William Good.
So, Shields, you were terribly concerned about that officer who was arrested for drunk driving or killed somebody while drunk driving. I don't think you quite understand how pervasive this problem is. So we have this officer named Gaxiota, right? He got arrested for drunk driving. He was doing 70 in a 40-mile-per-hour zone. He's on a SWAT team. He was on call for the SWAT team. Driving around 2 o'clock morning, shit-faced drunk. Cops go to pull him over. He pulled to the side. Then he took off again. Went on a little mini chase with his SWAT vehicle. Finally, he got arrested. You would think he would lose his job after that. We think a cop gets arrested, they should lose their job. Nope. He got a promotion 2 years later. He got a promotion 2 years later. And then what happened? He got in an accident 2 years ago. Drunk driving. Hit 2 cars. And guess where he was as of 2 weeks ago? He was over in the Palisades working the fucking fires. Why is he on the force? Now you're talking about, do we follow up? They don't get arrested. If somebody gets arrested, a cop gets arrested, they don't get fired. Think about it. How many cops right now have active warrants for their arrest? How many? He doesn't know. Something you should fucking know, you dinosaur. And coming back to you, once again, Errol, last week you were upset about this guy calling somebody the N-word. You were terribly upset, Errol. But again, I brought to all of your attention, every one of your attention, that there is a cop out there that's calling me a black fool on tape. They investigated. They said he was just blowing off steam. And then they said they said it was non-disciplinary. The only action they said toward him is make sure you don't have your body cam on so it's not discoverable. And then you had this sergeant over here in South Central. He was caught during a roll call meeting referring to the kids in the community as yard apes. Yard apes. And the LAPD investigated. You know what they said? They said it was non-disciplinary. Calling kids yard apes in South Central is non-disciplinary. What is wrong with you people? You guys do not hold the cops accountable. Shields, you work for Jones Day, right? I think it's time we start putting some pressure on Jones Day. You talk about protests in front of people's houses. I'm coming to your fucking house. I'm gonna protest in front of your house to let your neighbors know that you do not do anything to hold these cops accountable. Now again, last week, or for weeks now, for months, I've been trying to get an explanation about the whole black fool thing. Is that acceptable under your force? Will that continue to be non-disciplinary? You guys have all been on emails and you all have said nothing. You, Garcia, does Homeboy Industries feel good about that you do nothing about that? We're about to find the fuck out.
Next, we have Mona M.
Can you hear me?
Hi, yes. What items would you like to speak on?
Thank you. All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Chief McDonald, Errol Southers, I'm glad that you are open to communication. I have phone calls into both of you. I would really please respect you for calling me back. Let me give you a case number, 25CJCM00751. There's CPRA evidence showing collusion between the Cult of Scientology and LAPD. Cult of Scientology asked for a charge to be filed and then gave the specific codes for the LAPD violations against this person. I remember when all of these events happened. Actually, there's live streams. The old papering, the old firing is now streaming, and it is different media, multimedia, and it's more of an open crowdsource. The corruption is obvious and profound. Again, the loud noise protests, if you will, are not against the religion. It is against the abuses being cloaked by the religion. Do you know the person that is charged on that is the significant other of a victim of these cloaked abuses? Child abuse, mental, physical, and sexual. These abuses against children are not only on topic, but they should be your main priority of a topic. This complaint is in specific reason why I have been asking for a meeting. Make it make sense that the city attorney and LAPD is protecting the abuser. Where do you stand on this issue? If you don't meet with me, you are admitting which side of the line you are on. I have a list of survivors. The list is over 200 and climbing. Unfortunately, from this list, 22% of them are no longer with us due to suicide or tragedy. Of those still with us, 84% have attempted suicide or have suicidal ideation. Almost 100% of the survivors were told not to report crimes to authorities, to not trust anyone, and if they did tell, it would be a high crime and punishable by their imprisonment in their internal jail system. No due process. You are protecting the abuser of children and destroyer of families and humanity. I'm again requesting a meeting to discuss this complaint. Again, through CPRA information, I know that the Cult of Scientology has continually bent your ears on how bad the protesters are. I think it's time for you to see why they are hiding. Thank you, and I yield back my time.
The next speaker, Audit LA.
Good morning. I want to briefly, before I start, ask the chief if he could address the homicide in North Hollywood Park to make sure that, that if the community is safe. But I'm here to also speak about the injustice of Scientology. I've been coming here all along saying that the Church of Scientology should not have seats on your CPAB, because especially Janet Whelan. She is using it as an undue influence. She is friends with a detective, Michelle Gomez, on there. I've seen it myself. I was in person, and I want to file a complaint against Detective Gomez for using, for giving into the pressure of Scientology to push bogus charges of being raucous or whatever. Protests can be a little bit noisy. And, and it's one person being noisy, getting charges almost a year later. But like they dismiss when right across the street and on their street, Kaiser had 100 times the amplification. Isn't that disturbing their religious, services? Like they're saying that, I believe he's here. that it's disturbing their religious services. They disturb their own religious services with endless street closures that are very loud to the point where the community is like reaching out, begging for help to make it stop. So it's okay for Kaiser to disrupt services. It's okay for themselves to disrupt their services, but it's not okay for a protester of Scientology whose girlfriend, like we said, a significant other, is a victim who has not been heard, who is called in, wants to be heard. Okay, so it's not okay for one person to be a little loud because no one listens. How often do we come here and we're not listened? And Chief, I'm still holding you to it because you told me you're a good listener, and I believe that. And I believe it. But I am asking, and for this commission, to please, remove the Scientology. Not only, if you can't remove them from CPAB, then end CPABs, because it's an undue influence. I have seen it where even the North Hollywood CPAB, which I used to be on, okay, where I've seen one rise up to be the PIO, and then another one is on the commission, on the discipline commission. So it's a fast track to be able to get to the ears, to bend the ears, and to make way within LAPD, and it shouldn't be. They should be like public meetings for like town hall style meetings for the entire community. So I'm asking you, sir, as your tenure as chief, to please look into not only these complaints, and I also want to file a complaint against whoever signed off on these charges because they're prejudicial. I have so much evidence with CPRA's request, this personal viewing and live streaming. There's so much evidence that there's collusion. We came to OIG about it. We've been begging since May to stop this collusion between LAPD, especially Northeast Division and Hollywood Division. I want to file a complaint against these officers involved. And now whenever I file a complaint, I have to do a commendation. So I have that.
Next, we have Muriel.
Can you hear me?
Hi, yes. What items would you like to speak on?
All of them.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Yes. I'm here to demand action on the continuous abuse of children in the cult of Scientology. Abuse happening right here in Los Angeles under your watch. Scientology operates large compounds in this city where children are subjected to abusive and dangerous practices designed to brainwash them and cut them off from the outside world. One such practice is the purification rundown, where children are given high doses of niacin, made to sit for hours in a sauna, and then made to run on treadmill under the false claim of it being detoxification. This so-called purification process can take up to 2 months with daily participation required. These methods are not only unscientific, but outright dangerous, leading to risks like heat stroke, organ damage, and long-term trauma. Yet the LAPD has done nothing to investigate the matter or protect these vulnerable kids. Instead, LAPD has accepted donations from this cult and allowed them to manipulate the justice system by filing baseless restraining orders against peaceful protesters, wasting public funds while shielding Scientology from accountability. How can this department claim to protect the public while turning a blind eye to the cult that exploits and abuses children in our own community? I demand you to investigate these abuses, reject their money, and stop enabling their crimes. Anything less makes you, yes, you, complicit in their suffering. That's all. Shame on you.
The next speaker, Jonathan Foster.
Hello, Jonathan Douglas Foster, Staying Ahead, President Vance. So here's one that was an outing off location.
Principal of the John Mack Elementary School. School opened 2005.
Yep. And in this room, the John Mack room, boy, it's just a polluted mess now. Here's Kalanche last week, breaking the law, conspiracy. Listen to this.
That weren't even part of the organized protest on the Latino Forum that that your office organized 30 organizations, Carecen, Salef, COFAM, Latino leaders from across, post information, the Know Your Rights information on our website to make that easy for folks to navigate in Spanish. Hearing the same information from law enforcement adds another level of legitimacy and credibility.
Yeah, legitimacy and credibility to, if this happened to me, you're definitely committing conspiracy to commit treason, speaking between 30 groups, law-breaking language, conspiracy to commit harboring illegal aliens, and y'all guilty. And this is Kalancha using children for your political racism, supremacy on the nation, reckless child endangerment is what you're doing. This is really, really messed up. And guess what? There's a long list of people that should be arrested. I ran against Donald John Trump because I want to arrest all of you people, and the Republicans wouldn't listen to me. Listen to this long list of people.
Mr. Emhoff, your former partner, who luckily many of us here in Los Angeles have a deep relationship with.
Obviously, I know all of you very well, more than 18 years.
My brother's a judge, and I question that sometimes. My brother's a judge.
D.A. Gascon and I have known each other for 2 decades, and there's
One of my mentors is Father Greg Boyle.
To Pastor Boyd's retirement. Coincidentally, he happens to be a fraternity brother of mine, as well as Commissioner Briggs. He happens to be a fraternity brother.
LA knows Steve, Steve knows LA, and I know Steve. For those of you in Los Angeles that know Steve Soboroff, and I know anyone that knows Steve.
My brother's a judge.
I know Danny and I grew up in the same neighborhood and actually worked.
I've worked with several of your colleagues over the years, and particularly around Southwest, Dr. Bashir and Skip Townsend and others. So
I tell you, if this happened to me, this is what you would do. And this is why I now hate you. Because if I died, Kalanche, you don't give a rip about me if I died. Jim, can I count on you? They're walking around in the street. The parents are supposed to have their children at school. You did nothing about it. Somebody got stabbed in the liver. Man, you smell like you're burning, bro. You smell that? Oh, there's so much more I got to talk about. I have to comment next week because there's not enough time. You're liars.
Next, we have Steve Riley.
Good morning.
You don't care about me. Why don't you care about me, Errol?
All items, please.
Why, Errol?
I have been
Sir,
denied.
your public comment has ended. Please sit down. Thank you.
Steve Riley.
May I begin? Thank you. I have been denied 2 weeks in a row to speak. So what I did is I wrote a letter which should have been posted for today's meeting. It was submitted 10 minutes before the deadline of 5 o'clock yesterday. It is not there. In fact, I know of 2 people who have been denied the ability to express themselves in public comment. And I'm wondering what is going on. Is this censorship? I'm not sure. But at one point, the police commission said that anyone who shows up for a meeting in person would be allowed to speak, and I have seen that happen on occasion. Anyone who actually gets in the queue should be allowed to speak. If we're taking the time out of our day to be heard and to speak on matters of importance to public safety in our community, we should be allowed to be heard. So can we please rectify that? The secretary, at least 2 times, has said there are no other speakers. That's just not true. I know of 2 people that had their hand up waiting to be heard. I was one of them. Now, Chief Randolph gave a report last week, and he called, and I believe it's a script. Who writes that script? Is that script provided by the mayor's office or okayed by the mayor's office? Because words matter. And when you call something an immigration protest, that's a distortion. Okay, it was an anti-ICE protest, or you could give it another name, but it wasn't just an immigrant protest or immigration protest. Immigrants don't have to protest. They're here legally. You seem to not be able to make the distinction between legal and illegal. And what is the policy of the police commission on mass lawlessness events? Do you have a policy? Because what I saw was streets being taken over. I saw vandalism. I saw fireworks being used as weapons. So what is going on? At a certain point, the LAPD had maneuvered people in the street at Cesar Chavez and east of Alameda into a tunnel-like area. The police were just standing around. I didn't find out what happened until the next day. What did happen with people? Now, I believe in the right to protest. This is not protest. This is street takeovers. This is criminal acts. And they were, at the very least, I expected maybe a citation. They were warned and released in pairs, 2 by 2. Who's responsible for that? The mayor? Who? Who was the incident commander? So there are no consequences for taking over streets? There are no consequences for taking over freeways where people are trapped? That's false imprisonment. Okay, now maybe the LAPD was stretched too thin. Chief McDonald, I heard what he said today. Let's do what needs to be done. When you don't arrest for...
The next speaker, DOA.
I want to thank you for the new charges from Detective Gomez. Loud noise is what I'm being charged with now. I beat lots of charges this year already. 2 false restraining orders because I did an occupation at Scientology. Because my girlfriend suffered all sorts of fucking abuse at the Church of Scientology. She was asking grown men about masturbation and anal sex. So what do? You go after me. You got 4 of my cell phones, a computer, and a fur coat. It's been over a year that you've had my phones. You called West Virginia, Major Crimes Unit, conspiracy, called West Virginia, wrote an email. Thank God I FOIA'd that. He said that Scientology would pay for extradition, for me to be extradited back to West Virginia if they revoked my probation. Guess what? I beat that too. I beat it because I'm not a fucking criminal. I'm an activist. They called San Francisco. Officer Rand, the Hollywood division, said that I had gun charges and narcotic charges. All lies. I filed a police report, a complaint about that. Guess what? Nothing fucking happened. They didn't take the fucking report. 3 times I've done a form to return my property. 10 days they're supposed to take to respond to that. No response. It's like fucking anarchy in this motherfucker. I'm not going away. You keep charging me with bogus shit, I'm gonna keep beating the shit. Justice for Josiah. Josiah won his court case this week. A false felony and a false misdemeanor. All bullshit. 2 cops came and lied on the stand. Thankfully, the judges are not fucking morons. I don't know. We've had some great justice. One of the judges wrote a 7-page paper on why I had a right to protest on the street and the sidewalk. Because I do have a right to protest on the street and the sidewalk. Because I think little children asking grown men about masturbation and anal sex is not okay. All right? Fuck Diddy. Fuck all that weird fucking shit, okay? When are you guys going to do something that's right? When am I going to get any justice? Scientology is going to pay for extradition of me from LA? I know everyone wants me to leave, but fuck that. I'm here. I'm fucking homeless. I love being homeless in fucking LA. It's dirty as fuck. There's shit all over the place. You guys are bogus charges. Thank you. Have a great day.
Okay, can I ask the acting inspector general, is there anyone that can speak to this gentleman if he wants?
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. Next, we have defend the LAPD.
Thank you. Good morning. All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Thank you. Commissioners and Chief McDonald, you will not use LAPD resources for your Know Your Rights campaign, which is your own revamped twist on Special Order 40 into a shield for illegal immigrants or jeopardize federal funding crucial for human trafficking, gang suppression, and violent crime. Stop playing politics at the expense of public safety. Lou, you sit on this commission claiming to advocate for the LAPD, yet your actions say otherwise. I know about your past attempts to redirect CSP funds to your nonprofit Legacy LA. Chief McDonald and other commissioners may not know, but I do, and so do others at LAPD. Your nonprofit is marred by financial mismanagement, including a trip to Italy exposed by the Mayor Sam blog. You've proven you can't be trusted with money, so why are you influencing LAPD resources? You have no law enforcement experience, yet you're calling the shots. Chief, stop trusting our judgment. Lou, quit wasting officers' time at TSD. They don't respect you, and stop burdening the chief in these meetings with your clueless questions. You have no business as a commissioner. Chief, CSP has turned into a joke, private security for politically favored communities while the rest of the city drowns in crime. It doesn't reduce crime, it just moves it elsewhere, and it only serves to check a box. Meanwhile, this department is hemorrhaging officers, response times are through the roof, and critical units like gang and narcotic divisions, Marshall Task Force are on the chopping block. Shootings are way up. And yet CSP is somehow a priority. Why isn't Bass happy with you right now, Chief? Is it because you failed to deploy officers during the fire, which costed people their lives due to a lack of proper evacuation? Why won't you bring back the thin blue line flag? If you really cared about this department, you would be shutting down CSP, reallocating those officers to patrol, and ensuring that every resource goes toward actual law enforcement, not to some commissioner's personal interests or political agenda that puts our funding at risk. Commissioners, most of you have zero police experience. You waste time here asking ridiculous questions that make it clear you don't understand how policing works. These meetings have become as stupid as CPAP meetings. If you really care about public safety, step aside and let qualified people take over. But let's be honest, that's not why you're here. You're here to climb political ladders, to serve your own careers, and to rubber stamp whatever nonsense the mayor wants. You don't serve the LAPD, and you damn sure don't serve the people of Los Angeles. Lou, your manipulation of Special Order 40 and attempts to divert department resources towards your personal causes and favored nonprofits are well documented. If CSP ever gets dismantled, not a single penny will go to your little Bruja clique that includes Monica Rodriguez and Sandra Figueroa, and it won't go to your nonprofit or any other nonprofits you're trying to curry favor with. This department needs real leadership, not opportunists. You want to help the LAPD, start by stepping down and letting true law enforcement professionals run this department before you do any more damage. I yield my time. Thank you.
The next speaker, Megan.
The vibes are really weird in here today. Just wanted to say that out loud. I went on YouTube. I listened to Django read out your decision about the LAPD's shooting of Jose Robles last week. That's the only way you can get the information, which seems ridiculous. I had to double check that I was listening to the right one because I honestly couldn't believe it. And then I felt stupid for being surprised. Jose Robles was disarmed and walking away when he was shot. He was so little of a threat that Gomez's partner had put her weapon down. LAPD then let Jose Robles sit there and bleed for 13 minutes without administering aid. You treated him like so much of an animal that the surrounding community members were begging for the police to help him. Help him. Help him. Does that haunt you? It fucking haunts me. Did you even watch it? It's footage uploaded by a private citizen of the entire incident, or do you only watch the body camera footage? Do you only watch what the LAPD gives you? He was in critical condition for a month, and all charges for threatening a peace officer were dropped against him for lack of evidence. And 4 of you ruled that in policy: Rasha, Fabian, Errol, Teresa. Now, mind you, it's mostly a symbolic act. Nobody's been fired from LAPD for an out-of-policy shooting since 2015, and I'll give you one guess what the skin color of the officer was. I find it terrifying that there is so little consequence for police shooting civilians in LA. We have the deadliest police department in the country, and is it any fucking surprise? I am really haunted by what I've seen in your so-called critical incident videos, and I just wonder if you are too. Jermaine Pettit, shot at in a drive-by from a police car, and then shot at again when he's walking away. Right as an officer is heard on video saying, "It's not a gun, bro." Seconds before Daryl Glover shoots him in the back. Does that get to you? That there's no consequence for that? Only 3 commissioners could even be bothered to show up that day to rule on it. The unholy trinity of Briggs, Southers, and Soboroff. They ruled that Hayhoe was out of policy because he didn't get out of his car to shoot Jermaine first, but Glover shooting him in the back was just fine. I don't know how you sleep at night.
Next, we have Phil Tabby.
That's hilarious. Hi there. All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
I'm going to read a letter that Voices for LAPD, we wrote and sent it, and it didn't get posted. Recently, we witnessed an unruly anti-ICE protest at LA City Hall that resulted in an outbreak of violence right on Spring Street outside City Hall. The fist fight escalated into a brawl and then a stabbing of a teenager on a crowded street. Citizens witnessing the video incident were left wondering, where are the police? Indeed, were there no police deployed at City Hall to monitor the crowd and ensure the rule of law and public safety? Who is responsible for the lack of LAPD monitoring the crowd? If the LAPD had been monitoring the crowd, officers could have prevented the escalation to violence that resulted in a stabbing and a young person being in critical condition as a result of a knife attack in the shadow of City Hall. Isn't that where Mayor Bass works? The city council? Didn't anyone notice there was an unruly crowd of demonstrators at City Hall? Could you not anticipate that without police presence, there might be an escalation of criminal behavior and violence? Does anyone have any common sense at City Hall? There seems to be an epidemic of the public safety job not getting done, and we the people demand answers as to why. It seems like this administration is just not interested in ensuing public safety and the rule of law, but prefers to take political sides, politically virtue signal, and be concerned with optics and perception management. Hopefully, the young victim will recover from his knife attack. Sadly, those who witness such chaos and violence in the shadow of City Hall will not have their shaken confidence restored anytime soon. That is, unless Bass administration starts allowing the LAPD to do its job and take care of the business of law and order and public safety. Police presence keeps the peace. The lack of police presence or the police presence told to stand down results in chaos, destruction, and violence. Let the LAPD do its job. Chief, there's going to be some movement coming soon, and I hope you move loose hands Marco Lozano. Also, move Do Nothing Ruby Flores. Get rid of DEI. Fire Liz Rhodes. God bless the LAPD. I yield the rest of my time.
The next speaker, Quinn Ball.
This week and last week, this commission spent an inordinate amount of time demonizing the protesters who've been fighting against the violent abductions happening across Los Angeles carried out by ICE. In response to this, thousands of community members have mobilized against that violence, and unsurprisingly, all LAPD has done is mobilize a riot squad to brutalize children and further weaponize their information sharing environment to hunt and surveil people you deem a threat. This conversation includes the new approval of one of the latest tools in LAPD's arsenal of surveillance, automatic license plate readers, or ALPRs. These devices are designed to scan and capture license plate information as vehicles pass by, creating digital snapshots of people's movements. According to LAPD's own agreements with companies like Accurate Virtual Crime Center, the ALPR database is used to search for quote-unquote persons of interest, a category that can include anyone involved in a crime or anyone who's undocumented. Just last week, you all spoke of your bullshit Know Your Rights and you put on a facade that LAPD cares for its community without documentation status. Bullshit! This city sanctuary city ordinance has done nothing but put out a fallacy of a story, pretending that LAPD cares about the people of Los Angeles, all the while sharing information with DHS and notably ICE. This happens through fusion centers like JRIC, though also through weaponry like the ALPRs, which are used to bypass the city's sanctuary city ordinance. In practice, these ALPRs are never just monitoring public safety. They're part of a broader strategy to surveil, arrest, and deport people of color. In fact, while thousands of middle schoolers and high schoolers mobilized against the ongoing heightened racialized violence by ICE on Friday, you made the claim earlier today that you care about the quote-unquote safety of the people who are protesting. How fucking incongruent with reality. Teresa, you said quote-unquote some level of violence and the victim was treated. Call it what it was. A child, a student was stabbed, and the police arrived to inflict additional violence while actively trying to inhibit medical care. Your pigs tried to let a child bleed out in front of City Hall while dozens of fully armed riot cops came to protesters with schoolers. Armed with batons and tear gas canisters, you rained hell down on children. How dare you! You brutalized 13-year-olds without blinking. Your people punched a young girl in the face. Did you mention that in your stupid-ass fucking report? What about the child you arrested just because he stood too close to you? You can't even keep your pigs in your pin pen. Shame on you, Jim, and shame on this whole fucking commission. Fuck all of you. I yield the rest of my time.
The next speaker is Grace.
All items. It's truly laughable that the commission still pretends to be the public's voice in police affairs when every single week you rubber stamp more funding, more surveillance, and more violence against our communities. Like that person was saying, last week you sat here demonizing protesters, people fighting against ICE kidnappings, against the violent collusion between LAPD and deportation forces. Meanwhile, this past week, LAPD was busy brutalizing children in the streets, sending out militarized riot cops to crack down on middle and high schoolers. A child bled out on the floor, but instead of helping, LAPD focused on brutalizing the middle and high schoolers and literally interfered with the medical aid that was being given. The cop that punched the teenage girl, Samantha M. Vasquez, 25196 of the Central Division, continued to harass and violently abuse these little kids instead of controlling her own anger. And here we are again with another agenda that proves what this commission actually exists to do. $50,000 for a reward offer because LAPD would rather turn civilians into informants than address the root causes of harm. $165 for cart seed certification fees, a cheap PR move from the same department that terrorizes Black and brown families. $600 for ceremonies and special events because LAPD needs more self-congratulatory back-patting. $20,000 for department morale and well-being because while cops get their mental health checked, the people they brutalize are left with trauma, incarceration, and death. This commission is not oversight. It's not accountability. It's a bureaucratic shield that exists to launder LAPD's crimes, push through its funding, and maintain the illusion of public input. If you actually represented the public, you'd be slashing the budget, shutting down surveillance programs, and dismantling this violent machine. But we know that's not what you're here to do. And so we'll keep exposing you and exposing your function, which is to contain, control, and repress. Abolish the police.
The next speaker, Hamid Khan.
The audacity of these people to criminalize and demonize young people who are rising up. Young people who have changed societies, young people who have completely revolutionized the world, and then they keep on hammering them and keep on demonizing them. Gang injunctions, PATH program, LASAR. How many different ways do we want to criminalize our youth? Here we were talking about an arrest warrant, and Will, you were talking about the other cop who's been calling you a black fool. I mean, what is the model that we are following? A fucking president with 34 felonies, where you still have to check a box if you ever had a felony to rent a place or to get an employment? That had been one of our longest fights to ban the box. So where is that messaging coming from? A country that's built on violence, where violence is codified, where mass murder and genocide is codified, where enslavement is the history. And now they're speaking about people and young people, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old kids, who have the audacity and who have the power to flip these motherfuckers off. to put them in their place, to tell them that no, we will protect our parents, we will protect our communities, we will defend each other, and we will fight back. And we are here, Stop LAPD Spying Coalition and many other groups. They talk about organizations. Well, tell which organizations are betraying the community. Tell us who you're meeting, and we will file these public records. Let it be known, we will go to court to find out that who is betraying our communities, who's in the mix, who's doing these backdoor negotiations, and we need to out them. We need to put them out there. We need to know that these are the people who are betraying our community in this time of mass state violence. And here we are sitting and governing and sitting over this thing, like, just making it a laughing matter when we show them the fact, when we show them the architecture, when we show them the design, that how your contracts with LexisNexis, how your contracts with Motorola and Vigilant Solutions, how your contracts with Flock Safety are giving undocumented immigrants on a plate, where you have Flock Safety on their own platform, which shows about, like, they have a custom hot list, that you can go to that custom hot list and identify immigration violators. You can go to the custom hot list of Flock Safety to identify potential gang members. This is the kind of stuff that you're doing. And here you are just putting up this facade of questioning to see, well, have you spoken to the community? Are you following this thing? No, fuck you. People don't need you. The community don't need you. And we witnessed what happened to this kid. We witnessed that the kid sat there and bled for 30 minutes before the cops came in and any medical units were called in. There were young people there who were administering first aid, compression, and just stopping the bleeding, taking off their own t-shirts to stop the bleeding. But because, and this would have been just a very minor injury. However, the failure to provide medical help in time, because we know that how many times have we watched them see people.
Thank you.
The next speaker, Goat Cop.
We are there for the kids, and we will support the kids.
So, Russia, overt acts. So you just completed general public comment, and public comment was just closed at the council. After that happened, 72 seconds later, you call my card. It's not a coincidence. No. So let's see, Russia proudly states that she defends corporations. Russia defends companies and executives in high-stakes civil and criminal matters.
Sir, this is not a matter before the
There it
Police
is,
Commission Board.
motherfucker, it is.
This
It's
does not
about
get
the
back on
qualification
topic.
to sit
You
on
are
this
off
council.
topic.
Stop interrupting me.
Off topic.
Stop
This
interrupting
is not a matter
me.
for the Board of Police
Stop,
Commissioners.
it's general comment. Stop interrupting me.
You can
Stop
yell
it.
all you want.
Stop it.
This is not
Stop it.
for the
Stop
Board of
interrupting me. Stop interrupting.
Get back on topic.
Yes, Django.
Get back on topic.
Django, I will. When you stop running my clock. What the fuck is wrong with you? You're under FBI investigation. Don't you understand that?
Get back on topic. This is your first and last warning.
Well, I don't need a warning. Nobody needs a warning. I'm saying that people on this fucking commission are not qualified to sit here on this commission. If you're defending corporate entities and executives exclusively, how the fuck can you be on a citizens commission? That's a conflict of interest. The only interest she has is to collect metadata, internal data, to use it to the benefit of her corporate masters. That's what you do when you defend corporate entities. You're a corporate entity officer. You cannot sit on this commission and be a citizen oversight of the same LAPD that has investigatory power over her clients. Right? Holy shit! How the fuck do I discover these things? Because hundreds of people email me every week. They want you people out of here, out of their lives. They're so fucking tired of you. cops with warrants for arrests, running our streets, running people the fuck over. It's not an accident. So anyway, today you constructively committed this meeting to defy and deny me public comment at a public meeting over across the street. This is overt act number 744.
Thank you.
The next speaker, Andrew Hall. Andrew Hall? Okay, there's no other speakers, Mr. President.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item number 3 on the agenda, which is the consent agenda items. Sir, you are disrupting the meeting. Please sit down. Sir, you are disrupting the meeting. Thank you. We'll now move on to item number 3, consent agenda items. We have items 3A through E. Are there any comments or questions on any of these items?
I had one question on E, please.
On E, Commissioner Garcia?
None, thank you.
None? Commissioner Clanche?
Just E.
On E as well? And Commissioner Sanchez Gordon? Okay. With that, I move that we adopt the recommendation for board action for items 3A, B, C, and D. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. We will now go to item 3E, the Executive Director's Report relative to the official police garage contract between the City of Los Angeles and the U.S. Tow Incorporated for Service Area 13. And Vice President Shields, you have the floor.
Thank you. And I think this question should be pretty simple, just in terms of, has the city attorney's office reviewed the contract and also approved of any proposed amendments to it?
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you. That's the only question I had.
Okay. Commissioner Clanche?
Yes, thank you. Also, a quick question. I'm curious to find out how many companies submitted a proposal for this contract? Or is it a renewal of a current?
So the way this contract is written, good morning, by the way, my name's Scott Moffett, I'm the Commanding Officer, Commission Investigation Division. The way the contract is written is it's going to be, the RFP was already assumed for Service Area 13 by U.S. Tow. So this is additional responsibilities that fall within the area of Service Area 13 in administering this lot on behalf of the City of Los Angeles.
Oh, so they already have the contract.
Yes, they currently have the contract, which they will ultimately have to renew, and I think it's about 2.5 to 3 years.
Okay, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I would move that we adopt the recommendation for board action on item 3E. Is there a second?
I second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. The commission will now recess into closed session. Thank you.
The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss item numbers 4A, 1, 2, and 3, and 4B according to Government Code 54957.
The commission has concluded closed session, and we will have a readout by Executive Director Mr. Sibley. Mr. Sibley?
Thank you, Mr. President. So, item 4A. At the regular meeting of the Board of Police Commissioners on February 11, 2025, during the closed session, the board made the following findings, and we have 3 cases. I'll begin with 4A1, which is case 008-24, which was a neck restraint case. With regards to tactics, by a 5-0 vote, the commission made a finding of tactical debrief for 1 Sergeant 1, 1 Police Officer 3, and 2 Police Officers 2. For one of the police officers 2 involved in this incident, the commission made a finding of in policy no further action for lethal force by a 5-0 vote for firm grips and physical force to the subject's chest, left arm, shoulders, legs, head, and face. Then, for 2 applications of force to the neck area using a fist, the commission, by a 4-1 vote, found those uses of force to be in policy, no further action. In the first of those, The one vote was Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon. In the second one, the one vote was Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon. For two subsequent uses of force to the neck area, these were adjudicated as non-lethal use of force by a 4-1 vote. The first of those was found to be out of policy, with the one vote being Commissioner Garcia. And for the final application of such force, it was found to be out of policy on a 4-1 vote, with the one being Calanche. For a second police officer 2, the use of non-lethal force was found to be in policy, no further action by a 5-0 vote. And for one police officer 3, the use of non-lethal force was found to be in policy, no further action on a 5-0 vote. To item 4A2, non-tactical unintentional discharge by a 5-0 vote. The Commission found the tactics to be tactical debrief for one police officer 1, and the unintentional discharge to be a negligent discharge, administrative disapproval for one police officer 1. For item 4A3, also a non-tactical unintentional discharge by a 5-0 vote. The Commission made a finding of tactics, tactical debrief, one police officer 1, and for the unintentional discharge, negligent discharge, administrative disapproval, one police officer 1. And for item 4B1, the matter was adjudicated. And that concludes the report out, Mr. President.
Thank you. Make a motion that we adjourn today's meeting. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.